5 moments when silence is a powerful weapon. Stoic wisdom. Not all silence is weakness. Sometimes it's your greatest defense. How many times have you felt that if you just stayed silent, everything would have been different? That unnecessary argument, that impulsive criticism, that poorly timed outburst, could all have been avoided if you'd just held back a single word. We live in an era where speaking has become an obligation. The pressure to take a stand, to respond quickly, to voice an opinion at all times is constant. But is that really strength, or is it just another form of noise disguised as power? The ancient Stoics, masters of self-control and inner clarity, knew something many people today overlook. Silence can be deadlier than 1,000 words. It's both sword and shield, strategy and healing. The art of winning without fighting. In this video, you'll discover 5 moments when silence isn't just advisable, it's vital. Moments when keeping your mouth shut is the smartest, most powerful, and most transformative thing you can do. And if you're tired of wasting energy, falling into emotional traps, or losing focus because of thoughtless words, then you need to watch until the end, because sometimes staying silent is the most powerful way to protect yourself and to transform yourself. Stoic wisdom begins when the noise stops, when your plans are still in motion. Don't talk about what you intend to do, act. If you speak too much, you waste your energy before you even begin. Epictetus paraphrased, "There's a silent force at work in the world, and it starts in the backstage of the mind. It's there, in the fertile soil of an idea, that the most powerful plans take shape. But that's also where they're most fragile, and exposing them too soon is like uprooting a seed before it's had time to grow." The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus warns us, talking too much about what you want to do wastes the vital energy that should be spent actually doing it. It's like running in circles at the start of a marathon. You exhaust yourself, but go nowhere. Talking about your plans gives your ego a false sense of accomplishment. You say you'll write a book, start a channel, change your life, and the reactions, the praise, the admiration feed an emotional high that mimics victory, even though you haven't done anything yet. That's the invisible danger. Early praise steals momentum. Worse, it can trap you in others' expectations, making you act for approval rather than conviction. Beyond ego, there's another risk. Exposing your plans makes you vulnerable to criticism, skepticism, even envy. Not everyone who listens is rooting for you. Sometimes even seemingly harmless comments like, "Are you sure you can do this?" Or, "That's so hard, almost no one succeeds," can chip away at your confidence and plant doubt. Ideas in motion need protection, not an audience. They need focus, not noise. This principle isn't unique to the Stoics. History's greatest minds echoed it. Nikola Tesla said, "If you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." He was a fierce advocate of economy in words, working obsessively in silence, never revealing his inventions until they were ready. Steve Jobs, though a master communicator, was intensely secretive about plans until the right moment. Apple became famous for guarding launches in absolute secrecy. Jobs knew impact lies in execution, not announcement. Kanye West, despite his polarizing persona, disappears for months or years, while creating only to reveal the final product, whether an album, art project, or brand. Napoleon Bonaparte put it bluntly, "Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake," a statement that at its core is about strategy and silence. Power lies in unseen action. You can and should practice this kind of silence. It's not about hiding, but respecting the sacred time of building. Before you tell, build. Before you show, strengthen. Before you expose, protect. Start small. Picking up a new habit? Don't announce it, just live it. working on a big project? Only discuss it with those who can directly help, and even then, sparingly. Have an audacious goal. Write it, plan it, execute it, then share the victory, not the process. In the end, silence isn't just the absence of words, it's spiritual armor, an incubation chamber where your vision matures, far from judging eyes, polluting opinions, and draining energies. The Stoics knew, when you speak, you scatter, but when you silence yourself, you build. 2. When emotions run high, especially anger, better to walk the road in silence than to scream in the storm. Seneca, paraphrased, when emotions rise, reason falls. And in that space between impulse and choice lies where most human failures are born. To the Stoics, reacting in the heat of anger is surrendering control of your soul to chaos. It's letting yourself be ruled by something external, by a fleeting trigger, by a storm that, if you just wait, will pass. But if you scream into it, if you act without thinking, regret almost always follows. In these moments, silence isn't just a virtue, it's an act of strength, pure self-mastery. It's like sitting in the middle of an emotional wildfire and, instead of pouring gasoline, choosing to breathe and watch the flames burn out on their own. It sounds simple, and it is, but it's also one of life's hardest challenges. Anger is seductive. It offers a false sense of power. It makes you feel right, strong, even justified, but it's an illusion. When you respond in anger, you're outside yourself, ruled by emotion, not reason. The Stoics were clear: master your emotions and you master yourself. Surrender to them and you're ruled by the world. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest minds, wrote an entire work called On Anger, De Ira, where he describes rage as a form of temporary insanity. He warns, no passion so effectively robs the mind of its judgment as anger. To him, the true sage isn't someone who never feels anger, but someone who, when anger strikes, chooses not to act on it. This wisdom isn't ancient history. Many of the modern era's greatest figures understood the power of silence in the face of emotion. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years unjustly imprisoned. When freed, he could have used his voice to scream, seek vengeance, or fuel hatred. Instead, he chose strategic silence, diplomacy, peace-building. His emotional restraint became one of history's greatest political and human strengths. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, discovered in the depths of suffering that human freedom lies in the gap between stimulus and response. However small that gap, it's where our power lives. The silence he practiced against pain, injustice, rage was the same silence the Stoics taught, the kind that stops pain from controlling who you are. In daily life, this practice changes everything. How many heated text messages would have been avoided if left unanswered? How many arguments could have been diffused if, at their peak, you just breathed and stayed silent for 2 minutes? Silence in the face of anger isn't ignoring the problem. It's preserving your energy to solve what actually matters at the right time with a clear mind and a calm heart. It's knowing that words spoken in heat can destroy relationships, reputations, and opportunities. But silence, that's what protects, organizes, and rebuilds. Staying silent when emotion demands a scream is like being at war and choosing not to fire. It's letting the dust settle before taking aim, letting the flames die before rebuilding, and that takes far more courage than any impulsive reaction. The Stoics knew high emotion is a storm. Those who scream into it only drown faster, but those who choose silence walk through chaos as if on water, steady, sober, unstoppable. 3. When the other person isn't willing to listen. Do not try to teach those who refuse to learn. Epictetus, there are moments when silence isn't just wisdom, it's freedom. One of those moments is when you realize you're trying to reason with someone who has already decided not to listen, someone who closed their ears, mind, and heart before you even spoke. Trying to teach a person who refuses to learn is like planting seeds in stone. It's wasted effort, squandered energy. And this is exactly what the Stoics warn us. Speak when your words have a destination. When they don't, choose silence. It will serve you better. Epictetus, who understood the weight of freedom and resistance, put it bluntly: don't try to convince those who don't want to change. Because by insisting, you abandon your own peace and step into the territory of ego. The need to win an argument or prove you're right comes from vanity, not wisdom. A true master doesn't beg for an audience. They simply live their truth. And when the time is right, those who are ready will listen. How many hours, days, even weeks have you wasted trying to explain something to someone who, deep down, only wanted to be right? How many pointless debates, social media battles, exhausting conversations with people who weren't interested in understanding, just in reacting? The Stoics didn't see this as patience or courage. They saw it as a waste of life. Because anything that drains your energy, peace, and clarity with zero return pulls you away from what truly matters. This wisdom echoes across cultures and leaders. Buddha taught that truth doesn't need to be defended with force or insistence. It stands on its own. Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." The message is clear. Those who truly understand something profound don't feel the need to forcefully convince others. They trust in timing, maturity, and the right moment. Modern leaders also embrace this logic. Barack Obama, during his presidency, was known not just for his words, but for his ability to listen, and often to stay silent in the face of pointless provocations. His quiet composure, in many cases, was more powerful than any rehearsed response. Mahatma Gandhi lived by the power of silence. In the midst of the noise of the crowds, the silence of a soul at peace is a revolution. Gandhi didn't shout to persuade. His integrity was so undeniable that his mere presence became the argument. How to practice this daily: when you notice someone is just waiting for you to finish speaking so they can rebut, not reflect, stay silent. When criticism comes from pride, not humility, don't spend your wisdom there. When faced with someone who wants to win, not understand, choose not to fight. Silence isn't surrender. It isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's refusing to waste ammunition on targets that don't exist. It's saving your energy for what truly holds value: your growth, your balance, your path. Because while you exhaust your light trying to illuminate those who refuse to open their eyes, other parts of the world and of yourself remain in darkness. The Stoics knew speaking is easy, listening is rare, but knowing when to stay silent, that is nobility. And more than that, it's freedom. 4. When the topic is trivial, gossipy, or without higher purpose, avoid useless and superfluous speech. Only speak if it improves upon silence. Marcus Aurelius paraphrased, "Speech is an extension of the soul. Every word that leaves your mouth reveals where your mind resides, where your attention rests, and more profoundly, who you are choosing to be." This is why the Stoics warned so fiercely. Avoid pointless talk. Shun empty conversation. Withdraw when the subject doesn't elevate, build, or honor reason. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, a man who held the world in his hands, chose silence when words didn't serve virtue. His reminder to us: only speak if it improves upon silence. In an era where chatter has become habit, this practice is revolutionary. Frivolous talk, gossip disguised as concern, jokes that feed the ego, distractions masquerading as socialization. All of it is noise. Noise that clutters your mind, scatters your focus, and dilutes your presence. It's like Trying to hear your own breath in the middle of a shouting crowd, you lose your center. And when you lose your center, you lose self-mastery. The problem isn't just superficial content, it's the habit it reinforces. Every time you engage in purposeless conversation, you train your mind to seek gratification in distraction, not clarity. You condition yourself to trade depth for stimulation, and a mind addicted to this rarely finds peace. The Stoics cultivated logos, reason, higher awareness. To them, speech was a sacred tool, meant to serve good, truth, and wisdom. Talking for the sake of talking was a form of self-abandonment, a departure from virtue, a waste of vital energy. This view isn't unique to ancient philosophy. Modern thinkers also embrace selective silence. Carl Jung warned, "Words have power. They can uplift or destroy, but what is spoken without soul, without truth, only creates noise." Naval Ravikant, Silicon Valley entrepreneur and philosopher, advises, avoid people and conversations about others. Seek ideas, not gossip. He argues that silence paired with reflection is one of the greatest tools for personal and mental success today. Jiddu Krishnamurti, the Indian philosopher, stated bluntly, "Gossip destroys the mind." To him, idle chatter was a way to numb awareness. His challenge, observe what you say each day. Ask, does this serve something greater? If not, why am I speaking? How to practice this now? Observe your environments. Notice the conversations, topics, and energy around you. When the subject turns to others' lives, sensationalized tragedies, or hollow humor, pause. You don't need to judge or withdraw entirely. Simply choose not to feed the cycle. Train silence as mental purification. The less you engage in noise, the more your mind craves substance. Observe your environments. Notice the conversations, topics, and energy around you. When the subject turns to others' lives, sensationalized tragedies, or hollow humor, pause. You don't need to judge or withdraw entirely. Simply choose not to feed the cycle. Train silence as mental purification. The less you engage in noise, the more your mind craves substance. Here's the paradox. When you stop participating in these conversations, you become more respected, more noticed, more present. People sense it. Wise silence carries weight. It commands respect without demanding it. Because when you speak only when necessary, every word gains value. It's not noise, it's presence. Marcus Aurelius was right. Often silence is better than any speech. But if you must speak, let it expand, elevate, bring clarity. Otherwise, preserve the sanctity of silence. It's where the spirit organizes itself, where the mind flourishes, where true power is revealed. 5. When silence is more impactful than any argument, the best response to slander is silence and righteous conduct. Seneca. There are moments when silence is more powerful than 1,000 well-articulated words, sharper than any argument, nobler than any defense. One such moment is when you face slander, defamation, or unjust judgment. For the Stoics, responding to such provocations isn't always wisdom. Often it's just feeding the fire, wasting energy on what holds no value. Seneca was direct. When slandered, stay silent and live irreproachably. In the end, life itself always speaks louder than words. The impulse to defend ourselves is natural. We want to prove we're good, right? That others are wrong about us. But often, this reaction convinces no one. It only exhausts us. Silence, when accompanied by righteous conduct, speaks for itself. It doesn't counter. It transcends. It doesn't enter the game. It elevates it. Jesus Christ was accused, persecuted, and brought to unjust trial. Before his accusers, he remained silent. Not from weakness, but awareness. He knew his actions, integrity, and time itself were witness enough. And they were. His life echoed far beyond his death. Gandhi similarly chose silence in response to attacks. When called weak, crazy, or traitor, he stood firm. He didn't retaliate, didn't defend himself, just kept walking with purpose. The entire world heard. Nelson Mandela, through years of imprisonment and slander, wasted no energy refuting his oppressors. He waited, and when he finally spoke, his words carried the strength forged in silence, because he knew time reveals what pride tries to hide. Modern parallels. Keanu Reeves represents this principle today. Attacked by tabloids, misunderstood. By many, he never struck back. He simply kept living with simplicity, respect, and integrity. Today, he's revered, not just as an actor, but as a human being, because he never lowered himself to the noise. He remained steadfast in silence, and that silence built his reputation more solidly than any interview ever could. Taylor Swift, during highly publicized feuds and media storms, has often chosen strategic silence over public rebuttals, letting her work and actions speak for her. Denzel Washington famously avoids social media debates, stating, "If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed." His selective silence preserves his clarity. This practice isn't easy, but it's transformative. It demands inner strength. It requires trust. It needs the awareness that you don't have to prove anything to those who've already decided not to understand you. That every time you respond to provocation, you're sacrificing your peace to fight a battle that shouldn't exist. The Stoics weren't passive. They simply knew how to choose their battles. They understood that character speaks louder than any speech, that living virtuously is the greatest proof of who you are. That well-used silence becomes both an impenetrable shield and an invisible sword. In practice, when facing unjust criticism, ask, "Does this deserve my energy? Or will time and my conduct answer better?" When provoked, consider, is it worth descending to where the noise is? Or does my silent presence already say all that needs saying? In the end, responding is easy. But silent strength, that's true self-mastery. As Seneca said, the best response to slander is silence and righteous conduct. Because the echo of silence is eternal, it endures, it transforms, it prevails. If this video resonated with you in any way, take a deep breath for a moment. Feel gratitude for seeking this kind of knowledge. In a world saturated with noise, distractions, and pressures, you chose to listen. You chose to reflect. That's not small. It's a clear sign you're ready to live more consciously, more aligned with who you truly are. Now share this wisdom. Don't keep it to yourself. There are people around you who need to hear this and might not know where to start. Send this video to someone you know is seeking clarity, strength, and balance. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. Hit the bell, like, comment. This helps us keep creating deep, necessary, transformative content. You're part of this, and your presence here isn't accidental. For the Stoics, silence wasn't absence. It was elevated presence, strategy, courage. In times when everyone wants to shout louder, being heard has become common, but knowing when to stay silent with wisdom, that's become a rare virtue. Today, we revisited 5 moments when silence becomes a shield, a sword, and a guide. More than techniques, what we've learned here are principles. Principles that shape character, that armor the soul, and that connect us to something greater. The responsibility of being a lucid presence. In a world suffering from attention deficit, here on this channel, you'll find exactly that. Teachings that restore life's depth, reflections that return you to your center, ancient wisdom, like Stoicism, Taoism, self-mastery, brought to the present in practical, transformative ways. If you're ready to live with more awareness and courage, you're in the right place. Welcome. Your journey is just beginning. Like and subscribe or share. Help us spread this antidote to modern noise.